Skegness, Skeg Vegas, Skeg. Believed to be settled in the 9th century, Skegness was just a narrow piece of land jutting out from the coastline. A headland, or ness, which was soon claimed by a bloke named Skeggy, hence Skegness. Anyway, at some point old Skeggy wasn't satisfied with just a patch of land stretching into the ocean. Or maybe it fell in. Whatever the reason, he decided to build a big pier. A very big pier, almost 2,000 feet long. Unfortunately, in 1978, a large storm caused a lot of that to fall into the ocean too. It's still a pretty decent pier that I like to visit when I need a break from the woes of just north of Greater London life. It feels like I owe it something more than that. It feels like I could do more to capture its beauty and stunning history. I'm no artist, and I can't write music to save my life. But I can certainly approximate the majesty of Skegness Pier in my favourite game of all time. Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 is a game near and dear to my heart. To this day, the menu music brings me right back to the first time hearing it when I was around 8 years old, playing it on my first girlfriend's brother's PC. A simpler time. Anyhow, after borrowing his copy for an unforgivably long time, I sought out my own copy, played it even more, doing terrible approximations of places I'd visited in real life. Can I use my lifelong experience to make a successful tribute to Skegness? Or will it just end up in the recycling bin? Let's get to it. As with all projects, we need to get the numbers sorted before we can have any proper fun. So I pulled up Google Earth and started eyeballing the rough lengths and widths we'd be working with. It all averaged out to about 286.58 metres long, and a variety of metres wide where the building splits into various sections, with 30 at the front and 7 at the end. But then there's the question of what scale Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 is operating on. A 1x1 tile isn't measured in metres on its X or Z axes, but the Y axis can be measured 1.5 metres at a time. I'm not the first person to wonder what scale Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 is in, and I found several threads debating it. The most useful one is this one, where Reddit user X7123M3256, presumably a lesser known Star Wars character, has made several compelling arguments that it's somewhere around 3.67. I'll be using 3.5 for simplicity because frankly, I just need a rough approximation to get started. In computer science we call this a heuristic solution, but I'm gonna call it good enough for now. Anyway, after enough measurements were taken, I slapped them into a table which gave me the numbers I was looking for. After this I figured I'd better scope out the location in person, as only so much can be gleaned from satellite images. The B-roll I've been displaying thus far is sourced from several trips to Skegness I've taken with my family this year, where I first got the idea to attempt this reconstruction. On reflection, it's quite sad that there's no option to build an arcade in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, given how many are present in Skeg Vegas. Luckily, chippies are somewhat possible even if you can't sell Yorkshire fish cakes, a delicacy from up north where fish is sandwiched between 2 potato slices, then battered and fried. Delish. Anyways, on these trips I tried to gather as much footage as I could of the details not visible through Google Earth, such as side views of the buildings, the entrance, and the floor plan. The footage I've grabbed has proved invaluable as reference material, though mostly I was just hanging around with Frank. He lives with my sister and my brother-in-law, and he's an all-round top bloke.
Oh, yes.
Finally, on to the main event. Naturally I started off with the terrain, trying to loosely capture what I knew the seafront looked like while keeping it to the scale I'd established before. With the entire pier reaching 82 tiles in length, I made the map around 100 by 100. After laying the base sand texture down, I set about defining the seafront, which in itself presented a couple of problems. You see, Skegness Beach doesn't have a set area, shape or structure due to a little thing called coastal erosion. A small tangent to go into quickly. Coastal erosion is the displacement of land due to the action of waves. Waves can carry sediment from the seafloor to build up beaches, but they can also wash it away. And when the beach is gone, the erosion applies directly to the cliffs, dunes and other land masses. To prevent our seaside towns from being dragged down to Poseidon's domain, we have many methods. Seawalls are incorporated, and can even be seen in parts of Skegness Beach in case the sand is washed away in totality. Groins, don't laugh, can be set up cheaply to build up sediment in a particular area, but this can starve other parts of the coastline and lead to increased erosion there. The major technique Skegness employs seems to be beach nourishment, a process where sand is sprayed about manually to give the beach a fighting chance. It's not permanent, but it does the job. And that's why I've decided to not bother replicating a set shape of the coastline. it's so subject to change that it doesn't really matter. Anyway, after messing about with road patterns, zoning the lands above the beach and placing a bunch of multilingual welcome signs, I can finally move on to setting out the basic foundations of the pier and arcade. Following my prior measurements, it looks something like this. Here, I quickly mark out the previously mentioned seawall, in this case, more just for looks than functionality, and fill in the lovely North Sea. As I'm sure you've ascertained by now, this is going to be a pretty severe abstraction of the actual Skegness Strip. For now I'm just loading the surrounding area with rock to become either a car park or the grounds for a later ride. Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 doesn't have car parks, arcades or hotels featured, so I felt it mostly pointless to try and replicate them. For now, it can just be a vacant lot surrounding the main attraction. Following the reference images as closely as possible, I've attempted to recreate the body of water passing underneath the pier, presumably a water ride that I've never ridden. I'll stick a boat hire here later. As much as I've been to Skegness a lot, I'm mostly there to play Guitar Hero Arcade, take in the sea air and get donuts. It's only in researching this video that I've learned half the stuff I know about my favourite seaside holiday destination. This isn't going to be one-to-one, but it's good enough for now. Apologies to any fellow skateheads I've offended by not doing this bit justice. Anyhow, onto the main buildings. The inside of this won't really be seen, but I want to keep it somewhat accurate. I'm mostly working with the video I took of the building's facade, trying to keep it decently similar, even though that bowed roof is never going to work in the boxy isometric world of RCT2. Here I add some walls and windows to building 3 just because I felt like it. A professional would have finished building 1 before moving on to the rest, but I'm far from that. Here I construct a loose path leading from the entrances into the building. If I were going solely for realism, I'd have filled in the whole floor with path, but I'd brick the AI by giving them too many options and they'd probably just get lost or confused. I'll entertain some fantasy here and pretend the pier is flanked by a beautiful and varied forest instead of the asphalt and abandoned attractions actually lining the coast. Now to approximate the arcade itself. We're just going to use giant jelly beans to look vaguely like cabinets. I didn't bother doing this in the other buildings, but at least the first one's getting some consideration. I was considering just filling the building with ATMs, but it didn't feel right to have an arcade where people gained money instead of losing it. And now we just need to add the roof, making all of our efforts basically worthless by obscuring everything not visible through the windows. At least we can add the advertising signs on the exterior. Now we lay out the basics of the remaining path, including the final strip of pier that actually reaches into the ocean. Sadly I can't add the hundreds of padlocks the couples leave there, but at least I don't have to manually add all the sappy messages written on them. We're nearing the end of the construction phase, finishing the walls and roofs on the second and third buildings. I tried at the last minute to replicate the hilly bit and side entrance of the building, realising I'd forgotten to factor land levels in until now. Then it's time to add the very last of the foliage with some shrubs and lovely fruit trees. A few more finishing touches and we're done! With the basic construction at least. All that remains is to choose our rides and stalls, then get to tycooning some roller coasters. There was originally a full section of brutally comparing each ride and stall type and deciding what was worth including, but frankly the effort wasn't worth it. In the end I just kinda went with my gut and selected at random. And what better way to wrap this up than to test my park? I won't spend long here because if I start getting into the mechanics of the game I'll be talking all day. But yeah, without further ado, welcome to Skegness Pier 2.0. It's hard to say whether I've achieved my goal of successfully emulating Skegness Pier and Rollercoaster Tycoon 2. I've certainly created something that looks approximately right, is roughly to scale and functions as a pier, but in hindsight I really should have taken a few more measurements and focused on land height. Still, it's been fun to share this less talked about part of England with you fine folk. Say what you will, this went a lot smoother than my unsuccessful law-abiding citizen run of Schedule 1. With that in mind, thank you for watching and I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm new here, so please bear with me as I find my footing and feel free to comment below if you've got any useful pointers. I'll be back as soon as I can with more thrilling content. Big thanks to Marcel Voss, Dirklink, Ambiguous Amphibian and various other folks for revitalising my love for this truly classic game. Take care and have a good one.